look out. Here come former SportsCenter anchor Bob Stevens, esteemed basketball coach Rich Basirico, and Hall of Fame sports writer Curry Kirkpatrick. And someone's going under the bus.
Oh, there'll be many somebodies probably going to the bus over the next 30, 35 minutes or so. Bob Stevens, Curry Kirkpatrick, Rich Basirico. You've heard our names already. Hudson's on the Docks is our sponsor. You should hear their name now. Great folks there at a fabulous seafood restaurant on Hilton Island. Down here, now you can down here because it's quit snowing. It's back to normal winter. It was 70 degrees today. Curry was on the beach. So come on down and go to Hudson's on the Docks. All right, let's talk about it. The Super Bowl is set. One of the three of us picked the two correct teams in the Super Bowl. Of course, one of us took the chalk, so I'm not so sure I should brag about that. But Eagles, Kansas City, two great games to get them in. Thoughts, guys? Who should go under the bus on either one of those?
Oh, the Buffalo Bills, don't you think? I know it gets Curry's team, but not playing Cook in the last series. My goodness, he carried the ball 13 times for 85 yards. That's 6.5 yards per carry. He caught passes out of the backfield. How do you not have him in the last series? You have Ty Johnson in, he's a nice backup running back, but you got to go with your best, don't you think?
Did McDermott explain that at all after the game?
I never heard him explain it.
I don't
Still
understand.
Can't figure it out.
Yeah. Well, they're still talking. What you want to address? The calls. America thinks the Chiefs get the calls in every big game, and they get all the big calls. And there were two huge calls in this game, you guys, you recall, and Chiefs got both of them. I didn't understand the catch by Worthy, where the Bills' defensive back had the ball, and as they're going to the ground, Worthy gets the ball, possession, but then they're playing it back. The ball hit the ground. I mean, It's very clear the ball hits the ground. Everybody in America saw this thing, and they awarded it. New York awarded it to the Chiefs. I didn't get it. No. And then the other call, of course, the famous call. There's two referees, and they have different judgment on the play at the 50-yard line with the run by Josh Allen, and they go to New York on that one, and they played that back about 15 times. It looked to me like he got over, and then he got thrown back, and then he got thrown back. But the two referees had different places on the field. Had different spots on the field. And they went to New York again, and guess what? The Chiefs got that call. I'm not going to say the Chiefs would have lost the game. The calls are, but they were calls that really turned the corner. They turned the game around. The second one, especially.
Well, without a doubt, I thought he definitely, because even before the replay, when he did that little quarterback sneak, of course, him going to his left, the people in the booth are going, he's going to his left, he's going to his left. And sure, Kansas City kind of stacked the line there. I'm all for quarterback sneaks. I believe in them. 7 out of 10 times they work, but they had Allen. How many times did he do? Like 4 times. He went to the same spot each time.
And he didn't
get it. He
didn't get it. That's Romo and Nance kept saying it's all about Allen's legs. Allen's legs, Allen's leg. And, third and 2, fourth and 1, he didn't get it is the problem.
Yeah.
And they said the Chiefs knew that Allen likes to go to the left every time. And they stopped him. They stopped him. I thought it was, I watched both these games for some reason. I kind of got into the coaching aspects of it. And it seems to me in the Bills Chiefs game, I could tell almost every time what the Bills were gonna what their play was gonna be. I could tell. With the Chiefs, you never know what they're gonna do. Because Andy Reid it's amazing. And every big play, it seems either Mahomes is open and he squirrels around at the end and gets open on that one, or he slides, or he throws to a guy that's wide open. I don't get why they're always wide open. I mean, Andy Reid has these plays in his bag. Even the big third down that clinched the game, Mahomes throws to Pirine. I mean, Pirine, what is he, third string? He hadn't touched the ball. He had not touched the ball in the whole game.
And if he doesn't catch it, we're probably blowing up at Andy Reid saying, "Why are you doing this?"
Why are you
And
throwing
he
the ball?
not only
Yeah.
catches it, but he's wide open, and
Yeah.
there's nobody near him.
Right.
And I just got to give it to Andy Reid, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the other
Wait till he
thing.
pulls out the fumble Rooski,
Yeah.
that we've been watching for 16 weeks. Wait till he
Well,
pulls that out in the Super Bowl.
googly,
You never know. But
googly,
think
googly,
about
googly.
this. The leading receiver for Kansas City was Worthy, and Buffalo passed on him, the rookie wide receiver, and they drafted Coleman out of Florida State. Coleman had one reception in that game. Worthy, I think, had, let's see, he had 6 for 85 yards. And people even questioned that back then, with like, why are you passing this guy, the fastest guy in the draft? Why are you passing him and taking Coleman, who was a good receiver at Florida State, but not the speed of Worthy? So it pans out right then and there. The leading receiver for Kansas City is a guy Buffalo passed on.
Well, I
Amazing
think that
stuff. Huh?
I think that happens more than once and
Well,
over
you're
over
probably
the
right.
years. But go back to the let me go back to the if I can the Eagles and the
Yes.
Commodores, who I of course picked, and it's not because I picked Washington, but what is Cliff Kingsbury doing? What they had. It's probably going to be a blowout anyway, right? There were 3 turnovers. They gave the Eagles 21 points. If they
Right.
hadn't done that, it'd be pretty competitive.
Mhm.
But the best play to me, the best play Washington has is a designated quarterback run, which that kid does better than probably anybody except maybe Lamar Jackson. And a designated quarterback run is what he does the best. They didn't call that play until about 6 minutes were left in the third quarter. And they were already down 35-14. They call the play, and he runs it the first time. He runs it for 7 yards. They call another designated run, and he runs for a touchdown. I don't understand why. And what about Terry McLaurin? Did he just disappear on his own, or was it? I don't understand. That's their best. That's their best
Right.
receiver.
Well,
He lined up, you guys. He lined up on the left side almost 90% of the time. And when he finally lined up on the right side, and he has the guy Mitchell covering him, and Mitchell does a great job, and he probably took him out of the game. But I don't know why Kingsbury, finally they put McLaurin on the right side. They threw a slant to him, and he ran to the goal line.
right.
I mean, why don't these guys realize
I know.
wait a minute. He's better on the right side. We can get him the ball better, easier. And the Eagles aren't great in their ranking in the covering the quarterback runs. They aren't one of the better defensive teams against that. So I don't know.
Well,
It's probably
think of this. The leading receiver for Washington was who? The tight end. Ertz was
Yeah.
the leading receiver. He had 11 receptions. So what does that tell you? I mean, that must have been part of your game plan, right? Going into the game thinking, okay, we got to get the ball to him. You're not going to win many games when your leading receiver is your tight end.
Well,
Rich,
when you have Barkley, I think all that receiving goes out the window. I mean, the guy the first time he touches it, he goes for 60.
Yeah,
And
he's amazing.
I'm going, oh my! I mean, he's just been
he's the MVP of the league. You talk about
agree.
your quarterbacks, but he's the guy you hand the ball to and say, "Here, go win the thing."
Right.
He's been terrific. Rich, let me ask you, as a coach, we've just been talking for almost 10 minutes now about coaching decisions. Do these guys sometimes outcoach themselves? Do they,
absolutely.
they think we're going to use McLaurin because he's been our bell cow. Let's
Yeah.
do something else.
Right.
And
They do.
the fact that
Coaches
the Eagles
overcoach.
the Eagles did not overcoach, and Andy Reid just reached into a different pocket of his bag of tricks and pulled out.
Many times coaches think, well, what are they going to do defensively? So you can't worry about, you got to do what you do best. What do you do best? It's like in basketball, taking the ball out at the end of the game and go, oh, they're going to be in a zone. No, don't worry. Or coaches say, I didn't call a timeout because I didn't want the other team to have the opportunity to set up their defense. Don't worry about the other team. Worry about what you're going to do. How is your team going to execute? That's the most important thing. Not
Rich,
worry about what they're going to do.
I got another question for you as a coach. We've also talked a lot about replay and all of that. You never had replay in all of the years that you coached. would you have wanted it, or would you have been abused
No.
it? Would you have, oh my God, get that thing away from me? Where were you on replay?
I don't like replay. I mean, I know you're trying to get the correct call all the time, which they don't. Even with replay, they don't.
Yeah.
It's obvious. Curry brought that up earlier. I like the game just be pure. Just play it. If the official misses it, they miss. Hey, if players turn the ball over, we don't stop and go, okay, here's another chance. Don't throw the ball, away this time. It's part of the game. You miss a call, you miss a call. I don't. Plus, the games get stopped so many times, and you sit there and you wait, and you see on the replay, oh, that's the right call, and those guys take 7 minutes to figure it out.
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
is it
they
taking
take
so
way too
long?
long. There should be
Well,
a limit to how long
correct.
they can look at the thing. If you
I
can't
agree.
see it in 3 minutes, just say something and get back on the field.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
come on. It's I want to give an under the bus to a couple of announcers under the buses.
Okay.
Tony Romo, okay, early in Buffalo Dallas game, okay, he's talking about the great Bills cornerback Christian Benford. And Romo said, Benford got knocked out last week of the Ravens game he was on concussion protocol, and he said they can't lose Benford. It'd be terrible if they lost him in this game too. The very next play, boom, he hits helmets with a teammate, and they cart him off the field to the hospital. For God's sake, I mean,
Right.
he's out of the game, and they had to put it in his substitute that went in, the guy Elam. And he's been a dog all year, and the Buffalo fans knew, this is bad news. But Romo called it, and he jinxed the whole thing. It's the announcer. The announcer,
Because I was going to say he got it right. What are you
the
talking
announcer
about?
jinxed. No, he jinxed it though. He jinxed it.
That sounds like a Buffalo Bills fan, doesn't it, Bob?
Yeah. I'll give you. Here's my pet peeve. You hear this every week. Tom Brady. Okay. Conflict of interest. He's a part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. He's doing the telecast. Okay. The Raiders last week had the biggest coaching hire of all of them. Had the most colorful, the best, whatever. They hire Pete Carroll to coach him. So, and Brady was apparently in on all the coaching discussions. They have a 2-hour pregame show. They have the whole game. Did they ever mention that Pete Carroll was hired by Tom Brady in the Las Vegas Raiders during the game? No mention of it. I mean, I would love to hear what Tom Brady would have to say, why we hired him over the other guys, how the interview went. No mention of it. Nothing. Zero. Why? I mean, you can't
They would
be an
ask
announcer.
any other owner that was available to them. They would ask any other one. Yeah, that I would agree with you on that one. Throw CBS Fox under the bus on that one. Yeah.
Rule number one: you can't be an owner and an announcer. Pick one, Tom. Pick one, Brady. I think what. I was thinking this the other day. What if Jerry Jones was allowed to be a broadcaster? And he owns the Dallas Cowboys, and he'd be babbling incoherently during the entire game, like he did in the press conference when they hired Schottenheimer. What Bob, you said you want to talk about coaching changes. What about that?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. In fact, let's take the break, and then we'll talk about the coaching changes. Throw one last number at you. All 4 teams went into this the championship games. None of them had a turnover. And then Buffalo still doesn't have a turnover in the playoffs. And they scored 4 touchdowns and they had no turnovers. Since 2020, teams are 21-2 when they score 4 touchdowns and don't have a turnover. The 2, Buffalo and Kansas City this time, Buffalo and Kansas City back in 2020.
Wow.
Weird stuff. We're going to come back and talk about those coach changes. Who are the Saints going to hire? My guess is he's coaching next week. We'll see.
Right.
When we come back and throw more people under the bus, brought to you by Hudson's on the Docks. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens, along with Curry Kirkpatrick and Rich Basirico. We've kind of teed it up and started talking about the NFL coach hirings. Pete Carroll with the Raiders, I think that's a home run. That's what the Raiders need more than anything is stability and somebody to actually be in charge. Pete Carroll will be in charge.
Well, to go back to the Brady, not mentioning Pete Carroll, they were on the opposite ends of one of the great plays, the worst call in Super Bowl history. Wouldn't you love to hear what Tom Brady would say about, his new coach, Pete Carroll? I mean, I still can't get. Oh, by the way, before we leave the two games, I got a new hero. I'm throwing him under the bus, but anyway, I loved what he did. Frankie Louvu, the linebacker for you don't even remember his name, but in the tush push, he's the guy that leaped over. He was defending linebacker that leaped over the line twice, right into Jalen Hurts, right into his lap.
Oh, okay.
Frankie Louvu. Oh man, he dove into America's living rooms. I mean, he's a guy. he's a guy from the American Samoa. He's from Washington State. He's an undrafted free agent signed by the Jets. This is his 7th year in the league, his third team, and he's the leader of that defense, and he's jumping over the line. I thought it was great. Didn't you love that?
And if he had done it one more time, the referees were going to give him a touchdown.
I know it.
I never heard of that.
Hockley said, I'm giving you unsportsmanlike. You do it one more time, and I'm going to give the Eagles a score. Well, nobody ever heard of that rule, right? Nobody ever heard of that rule, including Frankie Louvu. By the way, what a great name, was a hitman. And Louvu said, Louvu was the same guy that tried to put Goff in the hospital the previous week. He slammed him in the end zone on that pick six. That was Louvu, and he didn't even get called for that, but he did get a $17,000 fine during the week. So the same guy now is diving over to try to crush.
He's your favorite player now, right?
Crush Hurts, yeah. Louvu said, I was going to take my shot. He said, I guess they wanted the Eagles to win, to score. He said, I guess they wanted the Eagles to score. Come on, Frankie, just do it. Do your thing and don't say it. I mean, he was a footnote to the game, but we'll remember that always. I mean, we'll remember this guy. Yeah,
sure we will. That'll be on the Commanders highlight film for sure. Probably all winter long. Thoughts on the other coaches of all the people Jerry Jones could have hired to hire Schottenheimer? Interesting. I mean, I don't know. Never
been a head coach before, right? Right. And then Jerry comes out and says in the press conference, "This is as big as a risk as I can take." Well, why are you taking that risk?
The press conference was ridiculous. He said he talked all about his comfort zone, and people were saying, I don't want to go out of my comfort zone. And then, of course, he hires this nobody who's in his comfort zone. He's been there, 6 or 7 years with the Cowboys? Schottenheimer?
I think the last 2 years he was the quarterback coach, right?
Well, that's what I mean. He's been on the staff. Well,
what special has he done for them? Seriously, what's so special that they did?
Here's what he's done special. He was born special because Jerry's going to that family osmosis deal where, he gets beat by the 49ers and, Shanahan is the son of a great coach. He gets beat by the Rams every year. And McVay is the grandson of a great coach. He wants to get the son, of the beloved Marty Schottenheimer. He has his on his staff. And he's just another guy. He can be Jerry's yes guy. He's just another nobody who can be a yes man for Jerry Jones.
You realize he could have hired Marty Schottenheimer probably 3 different times and never did.
That's right.
He could have hired the real thing. He could have had McVay, obviously, and he could have had Jerry can have anybody. And
look at the guys he interviewed. You see who else he interviewed? The Jets coach who was fired. What is he going to bring to the table?
You heard the press conference. He's getting up in the 80s now, right? He's in his early 80s. He's lost it. He's lost something. I'm serious. He's now babbling incoherently all the time. The press conference was all about him. It wasn't about Brian. Did Brian Schottenheimer even talk? I guess he talked for a little bit, but it's all about Jerry Jones, and again, it's another guy. He's not going to hire any big name guy. The Dion thing was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
All
And so
right.
New Orleans doesn't have a coach, and they're probably going to hire, another ex-Cowboy. They could have had him, Kellen Moore, right?
That's who I thought was going to go to
that would-
Dallas. I thought Kellen Moore was going to go to Dallas because he's
I
been
thought
there.
that. Yep. I thought I could see that one happening, but I don't know. I mean, they're probably hiring a coordinator from one of the two teams, Kansas City or the Eagles. Otherwise, they'd have done it, right?
Yeah.
You're right.
Well,
Yeah,
Kellen-
I think
Kellen Moore-
it's Moore.
They keep talking about Moore's already talked to him several times, and now, of course, he can talk to him in person. If the Super Bowl's in New
That's
Orleans,
right.
he can go.
They're in New Orleans.
Yeah.
They'll meet for beignets in the morning and before practice. Ben Johnson to the Bears, good hire.
I think it's a great hire for them. I think it's a perfect hire for them because he works great with quarterbacks, and that's what they need most, right? And they say his play calling is terrific. So I think it's cool. The one that kind of throws me off is the Jacksonville hire, Liam Cohen. What have you ever? I mean, this year, yes, he was at Tampa Bay. They had third most yards in the NFL, fourth in points. Do you remember the year before he was with with LA, and they were last in yards, last. So they hired a head coach because 1 year he had success with Tampa Bay. 1 year.
You
That's
got
pretty
his profile, woman. Did you see his press conference?
No, but I heard it wasn't very good.
All he did was yell Duval, Duval for Duval County. That's what they yell at
He's done his homework. Yeah.
That's all he did. Yeah.
He done his homework.
But I mean, look at the experience of that one year, and you had a success. And the prior year, you came in last in yards.
Well,
remember, this is the same owner who thought Urban Meyer was a great idea.
That's true. There you go. There's the answer.
They say he did a great job with the quarterback there at Tampa Bay. What's his name? It's
Mayfield.
Been so and Baker didn't want to lose him. Baker Mayfield hated losing him. I know that. So maybe he'll be one of these guys out of the blue.
Hey, you're the New Yorker, Rich. What's the feeling on Glenn going to the Jets?
I think he was a Jet for a long time. He was number one pick for them.
And when you're a Jet all the way, right, Curry?
That's true. For sure. No, I think the people up there, I think they like it. I think they like it a lot. But all Giant fans do not want them to pick a quarterback with the third overall pick. Not without a doubt.
They might get the chance. Yeah, they might indeed get the chance.
Because you don't like Sanders or the guy from Miami, right?
Not as a third overall pick. No way. No way. I think they should pick the best defensive player out there in the first round, the second round, the offensive lineman, and then the third round maybe go for a quarterback.
Well, who's their they don't have a quarterback, Rich, though. You go third round, you're going to get like a fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh quarterback.
Well, the quarterbacks that are out there this year, Curry, I don't believe anybody can step in and be a true NFL quarterback. I think they need to get a free agent. Darnold, Fields.
Well, I've heard a lot of scouts. I've heard a lot of scouts say great things about both Sanders and the guy from Miami, who I can't. Cam, what's his name?
But don't they say that every year?
Yeah, they do. And they
about the top couple of quarterbacks.
They said if he came out last year, they'd be the seventh and eighth quarterback.
Oh, okay.
That's what they said they wouldn't even be in the top six quarterbacks coming out if they came out last year. They get him in a classroom and they ask questions and they can diagram, and all of a sudden they fall in love with them. I mean, It's more to it than that. So we'll see. I might eat my words here, but I don't think either one of them is going to be a good NFL quarterback.
All right. What I think it's the most interesting thing about Glenn going to the Jets and Ben Johnson to the Bears. What does this do to the Lions, who just lost both their coordinators?
Right.
Holy moly! They're promoting from within, and they think they brought in a guy from Denver, and then they're promoting on the other side from within. But wow, that's going to be scary.
The interesting thing with Detroit, they hired the guy, as you mentioned, Bob, from Denver. He was the tight ends coach. So now he's your offensive coordinator? Where's that tight ends coach,
Well,
the offensive
he
coordinator?
again, it's all about who you know. You guys know this from any
Yes.
business you've ever been in. And this guy has worked with Campbell in New Orleans, I think.
Okay.
And so they go back.
I
And
got you.
so I think it's a trust issue. He
Right.
knows this guy can do what I need him to do. And you know, it's like Donald Trump hiring Pete Hegseth. It's a guy I know and I trust, and I know he's going to do the right thing.
How about these?
Okay, no more politics.
How about all the talk that the two coordinators, Glenn and Johnson, were doing all their interviews during their week going up to their game, and they got crushed in the game. Both offense and defense looked terrible. People are now talking about, well, was that a factor in the Lions' bad performance that the two coordinators were, looking at other jobs? And they're bringing it up now this week because of, Kellen Moore looking for another job while he's got 1 foot in, 1 foot in the Super Bowl,
door, yeah.
1 foot looking to get out. I wonder if that, goes into the. What do you think, Rich? I mean, you were a coach.
No, I
it's
think so. There's the distraction there. You're not spending as much time as you normally do preparing, watching, breaking down film, meeting with your players and so forth. If you're taking time to speak to these different teams, sure, it takes away from it. Absolutely. Now, is that what they lost? I'm not saying that's the way they lost, but it's definitely a distraction for sure.
Yeah.
Rich, did you ever have an assistant coach, interviewing with the New Orleans Saints the week before a big game, or?
I don't believe so. I don't think it ever happened.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back. And oh boy, I got some guys. All I got to do is say two names: Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, and Rick Pitino. Let's do three names. We'll talk about all of those guys. They could all have a spot under the bus. When we come back, brought to you by Hudson's on the Docks. We welcome you back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Rich Basirico and Curry Kirkpatrick. Our producer this week is not the esteemed Justin Jarrett, but the also esteemed Wes Kerr, who suggested, while we were talking about coaches, and I was kind of guessing that it'll either be, we were thinking Kellen Moore. What about Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator at Kansas City, who has been a head coach before? Boy, he's a terrific coordinator.
He doesn't seem to want to go anywhere, though. I mean, he's never brought up as being interviewed and all that stuff.
No,
I think he's happy.
He
probably
didn't interview
more
for
money.
any of the other jobs. Yeah.
No, he's probably making more money than any of the coordinators around, and he loves winning. He loves winning the Super Bowl. So
he's in the perfect spot. He's in the perfect spot. Why does he want to leave? He tried being a head coach and didn't do very well. So why stay where he is? I think it's a smart move.
I think he's got 4 rings. He's got 3 with Kansas City, and I think he's got one from his days with the Giants. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
That's pretty good
stuff. All right.
Yeah.
Let's throw Jimmy Butler under the bus. That's the easiest throw in a long time. Kicked out of practice now, or left practice, I guess. Suspended again. The trade deadline is about a week from now. Curry, where does he go?
Well, here's my problem with the NBA. It's what about midseason now? And all anybody's talking about is Jimmy Butler. Who cares? I mean, Jimmy Butler, this is his routine. He's done the same thing, at Minnesota, he did at Philadelphia, talks his way or, charms his way out of the team, and nobody knows where he wants to go. And he's talking about, he wants to go to Phoenix. And did I mention last week that he's now, instead of wearing color braids of the team he wants to go to, he's wearing the colors of the team on his shoes. So he has the Phoenix colors on his shoe now. The thing I think about the NBA, I mean, nobody's any good. Miami's, none of the big names are any good. Miami's bad, Phoenix is bad, the Lakers are bad, Golden State is terrible. The Celtics beat them by 40 the other day, right? And then, of course, since the Celtics got beat by 40, I don't get, it's mid-season, the NBA. I wonder if that Celtics Golden State beatdown had anything to do with Steve Kerr and, embarrassing Jason Tatum in the Olympics by not having any minutes for him. Remember,
Yeah,
he didn't even
yeah.
play him in a couple games, and everybody said they want to see what happens when Boston plays Golden State. Well, we saw that. I don't know. And now, and your Cleveland Cavaliers were a big story, and they played, everybody said, well, let's look at the Cleveland, Oklahoma City. That's the new rivalry.
You guys just don't want to see that, do you?
Well, they played 2 games, and one beat them. They beat by 40. The other one beat them by 40, and didn't they? That's the way it goes.
They've
Oklahoma
lost
beat
one.
the Knicks by 40.
No,
Oklahoma
the Thunder beat the Cavaliers by 40. I'm telling you, in the big game.
Thunder beat the Cavaliers.
Yeah, in the rematch, a big game.
Yeah,
everybody looking forward to it.
And
and now the hot team is the Rockets.
Right. They beat Cleveland twice. Yeah,
they beat Cleveland twice, and they beat the Celtics. And the Rockets are now led by this kid, Amen Thompson. And I don't remember him, but he's a twin, and he and his twin were picked like 4th and 5th in the NBA draft 3 or 4 years ago. They never went to college. They played, in that G League thing that they have for guys that don't want to go to college. And he's 6'9" and he can't even shoot, but somehow he's become a star. And it's interesting. His brother, I don't know where his brother's playing now, but his brother's name is Ahar or something, and his name is Amen. And their middle names are both the letters, the capital letters, XLNC. Which you put it together, it's excellence. That's their true middle name. Seriously. So, but I don't know. All I know is they keep talking about the other guy with the initials for his name as most valuable player for Oklahoma City.
Oh yeah, SGA.
Yeah, SGA. But Jokic of Denver is averaging. I read this the other day. He's averaging more points than Shaquille O'Neal ever averaged. He's averaging more rebounds than Tim Duncan ever averaged. He's averaging more assists than LeBron ever averaged. I mean, if that isn't another MVP for this guy, I mean, that's amazing stats. Right. I'm not a big stat guy, but I saw that and I said, wait a minute.
He's pretty good.
But Amen Thompson is now the star of the NBA. I say amen to taking the NBA seriously until like 3 months from now. Yeah,
that's right. To the playoffs. And the Miami Heat should just get rid of Jimmy Butler. I mean, what are you waiting for?
I know. Why don't they fire him? Fire him.
Is he that good?
Well, he gets in April, apparently.
Yeah. Well,
he turns into
trade him.
He turns into playoff Jimmy, and that's why some teams want him, apparently.
Here's a number I found on Joel Embiid today. Joel Embiid has now played 446 games for the Sixers. He has missed 440 games. He has made $266 million for playing half of the time.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Should we throw him under the bus or throw the rest of us under the bus?
He should be under the bus the last 3 years. MB, that's whatever.
It's kind of sad.
That's why he's always hurt, laying under the bus.
Bob, you brought up last segment a name of a guy who we've had under the bus a few times, Rick Pitino.
Let's talk about him. Let me do one last quick NBA note.
He's under the radar, Rick Pitino.
Yet, not only is he winning at St. John's, they're ranked top 20. His Kentucky is back ranked again, a team he coached. Louisville is back ranked again, a team he coached. The guy
won national championships at both places.
There you go.
But I just want to say this about Rick. With all the talk of the SEC this year, and of course the Cooper flag at Duke, and even with all the Hurley clown show, I mean, it hasn't been noticed much, but slowly but surely, Rick Pitino is at the top of the Big East. He
Yes.
has a game. He has a game next week that I would love to be at Madison Square Garden. He's going to be St. John's playing Marquette. That is going to be unbelievable atmosphere. If he wins that thing, he's going to win the league. He's
Right.
going to win the Big East. Rick Pitino. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't get rid of him. You can't kill this guy. I mean, come on.
You know when's the last time that St. John's won the regular season? 33 years ago.
1940.
33 years ago was the last time he won it. So
Carnesecca, did he win?
they're loving him there.
Man.
They're going nuts over him and what they've accomplished. Defensively,
Rich,
they're
Rich.
terrific.
Rich, can you imagine what the Garden's going to be like next week when Marquette comes in there? It'll be like the old days. It'd be like the old days when college
Right.
basketball ruled New York. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's
I would love
great,
to be
you
there
know.
too. Let's make a
I'm
road
all-
trip.
I've always been a Rick Kidder, but I mean, you gotta admire the job he's done to get St. John's
Yeah.
back
Would
at the
a,
top.
Would a younger Curry Kirkpatrick be pushing that story to the esteemed editors of Sports Illustrated back in the day?
I think it's one of the college stories of the year, if not the story of the year. I mean, nobody picked St. John's to win the conference.
Or would you be
Right.
picking a guy with 4 middle initials as his middle name?
How about Louisville?
Excellence.
How about Louisville wins 12
Oh.
games in 2 years? Look what Pat Kelsey's doing.
Yeah, with our guy
there.
from the College of Charleston.
College of
comes in there.
Charleston. They're
Yeah.
doing. They won 10 in a row. They're in second place in the ACC. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the coach from Vandy. So Pat Kelsey's from College of Charleston. Then the coach of Vandy, Mark, was it Bynington?
Fine.
He-
Yeah.
Right. He was an assistant on Coach Crimmon's staff at the College of Charleston. So we
Really?
got these South Carolina guys doing pretty good jobs out there. Vandy's having a great year too.
And yet South Carolina, USC, the men have not won a game in the SEC this year.
And
They
how
are
many have they?
0 and everything.
And they should have won. They had Auburn on the ropes, right?
They've been
Mississippi
they've
real
had
close. A lot of
3 or
times
4
they've been
teams
real close.
Yeah.
Speaking of Auburn,
Yes.
I want to bring up, Johnny Broom came back from being out for about 4 weeks, and right back to where he was. He had a great game against Tennessee. He played about 35 minutes of the game, and they had a really close game at the end. He did something at the end of the game that shows how versatile and important he is. He went in, they were behind by 1 in his last minute. He goes in and drives into the lane, goes up for the shot, and gets stuffed at the rim by a Tennessee guy. He had the presence of mind. Broom. He caught the ball. He gets stuffed. He catches the ball himself, and he flips it back out to a teammate, Kelly, at the 3-point line, who makes the basket, and it's the winning basket of the game.
Right.
I mean,
Wow.
Broom does stuff like that all the time. He's a sensational player.
Yeah.
I think he's back in the running with Flag for Player of the Year. Flag, by the way, Duke is going to go undefeated in the ACC. I'm confident of it, even though they haven't played their great rival, North Carolina. They still have home and home. The first one is Saturday in Durham. We being North Carolina, are so bad. We almost lost to Boston College the other night. Then we did lose to Pittsburgh. Can't finish a game, Rich, as you know, as you keep texting me all the time. But the ESPN guys always say the Duke North Carolina rivalry game always delivers. It always delivers. I'll be shocked if the Tar Heels can deliver anything but a 10-point defeat Saturday. I'll be stunned because that's how much better Duke is than Carolina this year.
Let me make you feel a little bit better about Carolina. Vince Carter got his jersey retired by the Nets this last week. His number 15. He has also had his jersey retired by the Raptors. Is it in the rafters at in Chapel Hill?
Oh yeah. Well, his jersey's up there. Yeah.
All right.
The great players. I didn't know Vince Carter retired. I thought he was still playing.
You thought he was still playing.
I thought he was somewhere in the afterglow.
There have been 17 players, Vince now one of them, who have had their jerseys retired by 2 or more NBA teams, but there have only been 4 that have had their jerseys retired by 3 teams or more. Can you name them?
In the NBA, you mean?
NBA, yeah,
Yeah,
NBA retired.
3 NBA teams?
But that have had their that have retired these guys' jerseys.
Rick Barry.
So John Stockton's not on the list.
How about Rick Barry?
Nope. You guys, we have talked about one of them tonight, and we have talked about the others on occasion. Shaq, Pete Maravich.
Pete Maravich. Oh.
Pete Maravich, Wilt, and the one guy who's had his number retired league-wide, Bill Russell.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, there are no number 6s. Let's get to the other sport Curry knows something about.
I got one quick story about another former player since we're talking about this. This is a happy story. Georgetown has had a terrible season. They just got blown out again by St. John's. I mean, they are bad. But the one bright spot, a former Hoya, 6'6" forward named Ramil Ross. He graduated in 2005 from Georgetown. So it's been 20 years. And he went into the movie business. And last week, Ramil Ross was nominated for an Oscar in 2 different categories. His movie is Nickel Boys, which is adapted from a book. And the film got nominated for an Oscar, and he got nominated for adapted screenplay. Former Hoya basketball player. Really neat.
Good.
Yeah,
that's terrific.
Yeah,
that's good stuff. Curry, I wanted to give you a minute to talk about the other sport that you are renowned for having covered, and that is tennis, the Australian Open. Probably got the men's winner you expected, but a surprise on the women's side. Thoughts on anything that went on down under?
Well, Madison Keys, an American, is the girl you're talking about that took down number 1 in the semifinals. Swiatek, and number 2 Sabalenka in the finals. She had match point down against Swiatek, won that. She beat Sabalenka in the finals, 7-5 third set tiebreaker. Madison Keys has been a fixture on the women's tour a long time. She's 29, I believe now, but she was a prodigy on the tour at 14. She joined the tour at 14 years old.
Wow.
Didn't do much for several years. She got to the semis in Australia at 19, and she got the U.S. Open final. People remember that about 7 years ago. Played Sloane Stephens and got beat. A good friend of hers. It was the first time, I think, except for the Williams sisters, that 2 Black American women had played in a final. And she's always been there. And as I say, in this tournament, she beat 4 top 10 girls in the same tournament. And that's really, it hadn't been done for 40 years. Yvonne Goolagong, former Hilton Head resident.
Right.
Yvonne Goolagong did that 40 years ago. So, I mean, that's an amazing stat. But yeah, she played great in the Australian. And now, of course, the men's side, the men's tournament went to Yannick Sinner, who took out Zverev in the semis, and our American guy Ben Shelton in the semis, and Zverev in the finals. And Zverev said that he had a great match against Djokovic. They played the first set an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah. And Djokovic is playing great. And I'm watching this, it's about 2 a.m. And they played went to a tiebreaker in the first set. It's an hour and 20 minutes in. And I thought, there's no way I'm watching this. And I thought, there's no way Djokovic is going to play 5 sets like this. And sure enough, he missed an overhead to lose a tiebreak. He walks around the net and retires from the match right there, right after an hour and 20 minutes. I mean, it was amazing. And he had pulled something, I guess, in the match against Alcaraz 3 days before. And he didn't even practice for 2 days to try and get himself ready for Zverev, and he just couldn't play. And you probably read about this. He got a lot of boos when he left the court. He was booed like crazy. And Zverev took the mic and gave this great praise for Zverev for Djokovic. He said, "Look, this guy's won the tournament 10 times.
Yeah.
He's won. He's won with an abdominal muscle strain. He's won with a knee gone." He said he beats me on a broken leg sometimes. Zverev was very funny and very great.
Is Sinner potentially as good as the three guys we just
Well,
kind of said
Zverev,
goodbye to?
when he beat Zverev, Zverev said the guy's playing like Djokovic at his peak. I mean, Sinner is 23 years old. He's won the last 3 hardcore tournaments. He's obviously the best hardcore player. He hadn't done much at the French or Wimbledon yet, so something to look forward to this spring and summer. If he gets this rivalry going with Alcaraz, I mean, they could be the next Federer Djokovic rivalry, because Sinner is really, really good.
All right, we're getting a little long. We're going to talk Pebble Beach. And speaking of long, taking too much time to play a round of golf, we'll talk about that next week. We'll table all that. Although I might throw all the guys under the bus for taking 5.5 hours to play the final round at Torrey Pines this last week. Yikes, that was
Well,
awful.
how long did it take them to play that indoor golf that you love, Bob? That
that I
golf.
love.
You give me a break. That indoor
Well,
golf
they
is
actually
so
went.
stupid.
They
I'm going to
actually
predict
went over.
that's not going to make it. That's not going to make it. I mean, they had Tiger and Rory playing the other night, the big 2 guys that signed up. Everybody. I mean, they look like they'd rather be having a meeting with the Saudi Arabia tour than playing that thing. They hated it. You could see they hate it, and they don't like each other either. They're supposed to, this thing is supposed to be the camaraderie between the players,
Right.
and they're making funny remarks and something. You didn't hear that from Tiger and Rory, mainly because they hate each other.
I think the whole thing, the one thing it does for me is it makes me want to go play indoor golf. Doesn't do anything else. Yeah,
Really?
I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch these guys play.
I don't want to watch it either.
It's ridiculous.
The guys who do have personalities, Kisner and Tom Kim, those are the guys who need to be playing this and need to be playing more. And we'll talk about all of that and how to fix golf maybe next week when we don't have any football games to talk about except that big one a week from Sunday. We'll get into that. Anybody else? Final throws under the bus?
I'm gonna throw who I throw under the bus every week, because I just figured this. I just read this recently. John Calipari, who had $5 million to bring in players, and he brought in some really good players. But I did not realize he brought his whole staff from Kentucky with him.
Oh yeah,
The whole staff. Maybe that's why they're not doing very well. Man, they're not good at all. They are not good at all. And I don't understand the people in Arkansas why they felt that they want to give him all that money. Why? Have you watched what he's done at Kentucky for the last 4 or 5 years? What has he done?
Well, it's come to Jesus time Saturday night, because he comes back to Lexington with his Arkansas team.
Yeah.
You think that's? I think there's going to be a
That
few.
place would be rocking. That place would be rocking. Kentucky's.
Yeah, which game will be better to watch, Carolina Duke or that one?
I think that one.
Oh boy!
Can you watch them both?
I got a nice story, not under the bus. Well, it's under the bus to the security people who tried to stop a man named Monroe Blakes from storming the court at a women's game at Vanderbilt. He stormed the court after the game, and Vanderbilt beat Tennessee, which was a big upset. And he made a beeline for Michaela Blakes, who was his daughter, who had just made the rebound basket to win the game on a buzzer beater. That's Monroe Blakes made a beeline for the security, tried to stop him, and finally figured out who he was. And it was kind of funny because the day before, Monroe Blakes was in Chapel Hill. And at Chapel Hill, he watched his son, Jalen Blakes, drive the court and shoot a step-back jumper to beat the Tar Heels at the buzzer. So his son had a buzzer beater, and then his daughter had a buzzer beater the next day. What a week!
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
They're both
awesome.
That is indeed terrific stuff.
Yeah,
we're not throwing anybody under the bus there for sure. That's a great way to end.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to smile that, even though he did it to my Tar Heels. Boy.
All right. We'll get back
Okay.
next week. We'll get back to throwing people under the bus. No good stories next week. We'll just hammer people. So be sure to join us then. We want to thank the folks at Hudson's on the Docks for sponsoring us. We want to thank Wes Kerr for stepping in, coming off the bench to take it over.
Worldwide West.
Worldwide West took
Thanks,
charge,
Wes.
and we appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Under the Bus is a production of the Loco Media Network and is filmed on the Hilton Head Island campus of the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. The executive producer is Justin Jarrett, with assistance from Trey Ramsey, Mahogany Hickman, and Adam Carroll.